Welcome to episode 2 of Walt Disney Animation Studios Trivia. This time we pulled an absolute classic, Peter Pan, one of the cornerstones of Disney animated movies. Some of it may be dated to say the least, but at the same time, it doesn't get more timeless than this. Peter Pan is the 14th movie in the Walt Disney Animation Studios canon. It released on February 5th, 1953. It was directed by Clyde Geronimi, Wilfred Jackson, and Hamilton Luske. The movie was a hit when it came out, an immediate audience favorite. Over its lifetime, Peter Pan has made over $87 million domestically in the US. Adjusted for inflation, it has made over $420 million, ranking it 140th overall. Peter Pan was a nominee for the grand prize of the festival at Cannes Film Festival in 1953. No Oscar nominations though.
And none for Gretchen Wieners, bye.
There were tons of scrap songs from Peter Pan. Never Smile at a Crocodile is considered to be the most famous song cut from a Disney movie. The music plays as an underscore when the crocodile shows up. A version by Jerry Lewis was a hit at the time of the film's release. The melody for The Second Star to the Right had been written with different lyrics as Beyond the Laughing Sky for Alice in Wonderland. Peter Pan was originally a stage play, but animation seemed like the perfect medium to tell the fantasy story. Before this, things like Nana, the Crocodile, the Mermaids, and the Pixies had just been suspensions of disbelief. This movie was made in the height of the Nine Old Men, the core group of animators for Disney back in the day. Milt Kahl animated Peter and said it was a challenge to animate weightlessness. He was often assigned the hero characters, which was the hardest job. He said he hated doing it, but also loved the challenge of proving himself.
Guess what you're going to do, Milt? You're going to do Peter. Wendy.
Mark Davis animated Tinkerbell, who does not speak, so her emotions are her way of communicating, and they often consume her entirely. There are rumors that her form was based from Marilyn Monroe, but she was not yet a major star, so the animators probably weren't aware of her yet. Margaret Carey, an actress and dancer, served as the live model for Tinkerbell. They had her test the mirror hip scene first, and the team said, "Would it be convenient for you to come next Tuesday?" Actors filmed basically the entire movie in live action so that the animators could reference the footage for a more realistic end result. Frank Thomas, the supervising animator for Hook, fought for him to be more elegant than menacing. It worked out well for the character. Frank worked closely with Ollie Johnston, who animated Smee. They were best friends in real life.
Hey, bestie.
Originally, Nana went to Neverland with the children. There was once a version where she narrated the story. At one point in the story, Peter was going to kidnap Wendy and bring her back to Neverland to be their mother. But Walt decided to tone it down after revisiting Wendy's eagerness to visit Neverland in the play. John was left out of the story until 1948 when writer Ralph Wright sent a memo to Walt suggesting that he be a strong character. He said that John should go to Neverland only to protect Wendy, and he tries to disprove everything. At the bottom of the memo, Walt wrote, "Good." Wendy brings her Peter Pan book in one version, and it gets into the hands of Hook, who tries to find Peter's hiding place from it. The pages fly away in the wind, and the crocodile eats it.
Do you ever feel?
One version included Peter sharing about his own mother. He flew out the window one day, and when he came back, he was replaced.
She replaced us.
In some versions of the play, Hook poisons Peter's dose of medicine that Wendy gives everyone. Tink tries to warn him, and he doesn't believe her, so she drinks it first. The audience is asked to applaud to keep her alive. This worked better in a live play than a movie house, so it's not in the film.
I do believe in fairies! I do!
Hello?
Most of the voice actors for the movie also served as the live-action reference models for the animators. They would record the dialogue first and then act it out. Bobby Driscoll voiced Peter. He was the it boy for Disney at the time. He starred in Melody Time, Song of the South, and as Jim Hawkins in Treasure Island. Hans Conried voiced both Hook and Mr. Darling. It was tradition in the stage play for the same actor to portray these two roles. Margaret Carey, the live model for Tinkerbell, voiced the redhead mermaid. Tommy Lusk, who voiced Michael, was the son of Hamilton Lusk, one of the film's directors. And now it's time for reoccurring Disney voice actors. Catherine Beaumont had just finished voicing Alice in the previous Disney animated movie when she was brought on to voice Wendy in Peter Pan. Walt loved the gentle and gracefully feminine qualities of her voice. She has continued to voice these characters as recently as 2002 for the House of Mouse TV series and the video game Kingdom Hearts. That's almost a 50-year gap between the original performances. Bill Thompson, who voiced Smee, also had roles in Alice in Wonderland, The White Rabbit, and The Dodo. He voiced Jock and Bull in Lady and the Tramp, King Hubert in Sleeping Beauty, and Uncle Waldo in The Aristocats. He even voiced Scrooge McDuck once in a short. Candy Candido provided the voice of the Chief without any enhancement or alterations. He also voiced Maleficent's goons in Sleeping Beauty, Captain of the Guards in Robin Hood, Brutus and Nero in The Rescuers, the Horn King's guards in The Black Cauldron, whatever this thing is from Pinocchio, and Fidget in The Great Mouse Detective. Hans Conried also voiced Lord Duke from Sleeping Beauty.
Who?
Heather Angel, who voiced Mrs. Darling, also voiced Alice's really cool sister in Alice in Wonderland. Tom Conway, the narrator for Peter Pan, had a couple of roles in 101 Dalmatians, the Quizmaster and the Collie. Let's talk about where Peter Pan has appeared in the Disney parks around the world. And there's a lot of this, so if I miss anything, my bad. First and foremost is Tinkerbell. While Mickey is the ultimate Disney icon, Tink is almost like the mascot of the parks. Most notably, she flies over the castle during the fireworks. When Disneyland was first opening, people were worried it might fail and so advised Walt not to risk Mickey's image. That is why they went with Tinkerbell, and she has become the icon that she is. The Tink of the movie is not much like the icon Tink. Let's not forget, she proudly tried to have Wendy killed.
Don't you know you might have killed her?
Peter Pan's Flight, the Peter Pan Dark Ride in Fantasyland, was an opening day attraction for Disneyland on July 17, 1955. Impressively, it has remained extremely popular. If you've ever been to Disneyland, you know that unless you go first thing in the morning, the wait time for this ride gets a little ridiculous for a 2-minute dark ride. It does have a smaller vehicle capacity though. In 1983, Disneyland's Fantasyland had a major overhaul. The Chicken of the Sea pirate ship and restaurant, later renamed Captain Hook's Galley, and Skull Rock were lost in this renovation. The original plan was to relocate the ship, but water damage and wood rot prevented them from moving it without breaking it. The ship served a lot of tuna. They later added some of the props from these closed attractions to Peter Pan's Flight, as well as audio animatronics. A similar restaurant, Captain Hook's Galley, opened in Disneyland Paris in 1992, but it has since been turned into a walkthrough called the Pirate Galleon. You can actually go inside of the Skull Rock in Paris. The pool at the Disneyland Hotel was redesigned in 1999 to have a Peter Pan theme. In 2011, it was redesigned once again to have a monorail theme. You can meet Tinkerbell and the other fairies at Pixie Hollow in Fantasyland. There used to be a prominent segment during Fantasmic that included Peter Pan sword-dueling Captain Hook up on the mast of the sailing ship Columbia. It is now a Pirates of the Caribbean segment. There used to be live mermaid models laying out on the rocks by the submarine voyage. These ladies did the most. The Walt Disney World version of Peter Pan's Flight opened in the Magic Kingdom in 1971. There used to be a quick-service food counter called Hook's Tavern, which now serves as the fast-pass distribution location for Peter Pan's Flight. Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disneyland, and Shanghai Disneyland also have versions of the ride. Hong Kong, girl, I am sorry. Tokyo Disney Sea is set to gain some Peter Pan attractions as part of the Fantasy Springs expansion along with Frozen and Tangled. Some of the concept art looks a lot like what used to be in Disneyland. Tokyo Disneyland has Captain Hook's Galley restaurant. Please order the bacon pineapple pizza if you go, it's so good. It is now time for the fun facts. Peter Pan was the last Disney animated movie to be released through RKO before Walt started his own distribution company, Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. Walt had intended for Peter Pan to be the studio's second release following Snow White. In 1939, Disney acquired the screen rights, and by early 1940, storyboards began. By 1941, a basic story structure was completed, but the onset of World War II stopped development. It was brought back into development after the war. The Disney version was the first time a boy portrayed the role of Peter. In all previous stage and film versions, it was tradition for a woman to play Peter.
Now I'm panicking.
Don't panic.
No, I am, because I'm going to lose my job.
Walt invited Margaret Lockwood and Glynis Johns, who had portrayed Peter on stage, to the London premiere of the movie. On stage, Tink was just a darting ball of light, but Walt knew that she needed to be a fully realized character. Mark Davis said that a woman who wrote reviews for the New Yorker magazine didn't like Tink's portrayal. She thought she was a hussy.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Jangling pieces of aluminum were used to create the sounds that Tink makes. A theatrically released sequel to Peter Pan came out in 2002 called Return to Neverland.
I'm her daughter! Jane!
On the TV series Once Upon a Time, they subverted by having Peter take the villain role and Hook the more heroic role, which I liked because Peter's an annoying little bitch most of the time. They also made Peter Pan Rumpelstiltskin's father.
Do I look like...
So, yeah. Imagine the 23andMe family tree for that show. Mark Davis said that he doesn't think the native characters would have been done the same way since the movie came out. Well, no kidding, Mark, I sure hope not. Walt once overheard two women in London talking about the movie. Have you seen it? No, but I hear it's terribly Americanized. Yes, but when you see it, you don't mind so much. Walt thought that was a good compliment. And that wraps things up for this episode. Thanks for hanging out, and hopefully you learned something new about our friends in Neverland. Consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed this content, and look out for future episodes. The next movie is always a surprise.